The techniques that you need as a $3 million revenue business, you will learn a lot of those between 500,000 and $1 million bucks. And then it just goes to scale, okay? Now, where you'll know that you haven't done it when you hit 1.6 million is, or 1.8 or whatever it is, you'll realize that the business is just a shit show. And then you'll scale back down to 500,000, and guess what you're going to do? You're going to learn the lessons. You're going to understand systemization. You're going to learn financial accountability. You're going to learn financial control. You're going to learn pricing models. You're going to learn marketing. You're going to learn about human resource recruitment and management. Like, guys and girls, I kid you not, I know you think this should be just click your heels, wiggle your nose, and it's all, blue skies and lollipops and you're making money. But, mate, I'm telling you, it's not that easy.
How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. My name's Max, I'm your host, and I'm the CEO here at Smith & Sons Canada, and I am the ambitious founder of EliteBusinessAdvisory.com, where I specialise in customised coaching for contractors and builders. Look, today we are going to quickly chat about, moving from what happens in business when it gets a bit scary. And, it's interesting. I do focus, I focus a lot on systems and checklists and procedures and step-by-steps and guides and all that BS, accountability and spreadsheets and things. But, there's a part of the business that really, the human side of the business, which is kind of out of my control, most part. We can bring some influence, sure. But ultimately, I can't climb the mountain for you. I'm going to be climbing my own mountain over here. And so, it's impossible for me to do that for you. And so, I think as much as we want to get all of the equipment to climb the mountain, what we have to think about equipping ourselves with is the emotional quotient. The financial understanding, maybe financial quotient as well. Some of these things, that there's roadblocks in our mindset, there's roadblocks in our understanding and our education, and no amount of toolkit and no amount of inspiration from your business coach is going to help you bash down the door and get her done. And so, climbing the mountain, I think sometimes us business owners, we go from, right, I'm going to climb that mountain, and then we get a little ways up and we start to get a fear of heights. And, and the challenge becomes a little bit more difficult and all of the above. And so we move from this zone of being fearless into this zone of being fearful. And so, really today, I think we've got to move from that situation where we're intimidated by our surroundings and sometimes by our own perceived shortcomings. And we've got to start focusing on having a little bit of faith in ourselves and understanding that we can do better. And I'll give you a little bit of an example. On the weekend, I was out with a couple of buddies of mine who play in a rock and roll band, and I was in Kelowna. And it was funny because the guy who's up front, he sings and plays guitar and he's wicked. And I tell you what, as a guitar player who does play in a bit of a band, it's intimidating because I really don't do anything more than a little bit of backing vocals and that's it. But this guy's out there killing it, lead singer on the guitar. It's an incredibly intimidating thing when I then think, well, I want to go and play on stage as well. And so, I think what the challenge for me in that respect is, and you can then use this example for you as a builder, is, and I had this as I grew up in the industry as well, you would see guys that seem to make it look ridiculously easy. And you don't know them that well, and you just think that they've all been, blue skies and lollipops and it's no problems. But, I think for me in the guitar playing world, what I've got to do, and to be honest, and here's the kicker, right? I am not as committed to it as what that guy is. I will tell you right now, I don't know how often he practices. I know he's been in that, leading that band for over 10 years and probably doing, 12, 14, 15 gigs a year. Some of them pretty big. And, I just don't think, based on my love for the game of business, and this is where I'm going to bring it back around, my love for the game of business is higher, or it's at a greater level than what my love for playing rock and roll is. Rock and roll is a bit of a, hobby pastime. And I think I talked about this couple of episodes ago about are you monetizing a hobby or you're running a real business. And I am so committed to running business that, probably doing what most, high-level business guys would advise against, and that is running a couple of companies, because it does split your attention. There's no question. But, I think to myself, I was thinking on the weekend, I was thinking, boy, if I invested half the time or a quarter of the time that I spend in the business, and I probably could take some away from the business and divert it towards, playing music. But I don't believe I would enjoy it as much in a weird way. That's just the way I'm geared. And so I think when you go from wanting to be, a business owner, and then you're fearless, and then you have some things that come up against you, and all of a sudden you start to feel some fear, I think at that moment in time is the decide, you've got an ability, if you're mature enough to go, right, this is where it really sends shivers up your spine, because you realize this is what you live for. Okay? And that's the way I think. I think this is where the average punter, and most North Americans won't have heard that term, but I think Aussies and Kiwis, the average punter will quit. And so any time that you're struggling, or any time that you feel like you're overwhelmed by something, and let me tell you, if you handle it right, when you're in that, when you're feeling overwhelmed, and we talked about this just recently as well, you're in that state of overwhelm, you're on the threshold of a breakthrough, because you're pushing the limits. You are pushing the limits, there's no question. You can hear it in my voice that, something's going on with my vocal cords. And my wife just looks at me sideways all the time and says, you're just overworked. You're just fatigued, which I don't feel like that. But, sometimes the body's trying to send you a message. So, but it's so hard for me to not just wake up and put my, Smith & Sons uniform on and go down the office. I think, what else am I going to do? And so, I think it's when we have that thought where we start to feel that pain is starting to hit the threshold, and we're like, I am not liking where this is going, and I'm not enjoying this. That is the deciding. There's a moment where you can go, you know what, I think I've hit my limit. This is it. I'm not going beyond this, and that's okay. I would rather you do that than destroy yourself, okay? However, if you've got a funny little appetite for risk and a love for the game and a hunger to learn, then what you'll find is you'll think to yourself, this is where other people quit. I'm going to keep on going, one foot in front of the other, always looking to learn. Know that, it's probably in 12 months, it's not going to be as big a deal as what I think it is right now. Odds on is I'll look back and have a little bit of a giggle, because what that means is, see, for you to push through that, and Alex Hormozy talks about this as being in the valley of despair. And what people do is they go, oh, this business frigging sucks. I'm going to hop off and go and do something else, because I love being in the creativity zone with a new business and a new logo and all of that sort of business, a new website, instead of understanding the power or the outcome or the result that you will achieve if you grind and if you push through. And so, you hear business owners all the time, yeah, you got to grind, you got to push, you got to develop, all that sort of thing. But most of us, because we get uncomfortable in the business world, see, we just opt out. We just go do something else. That's too bloody hard. Now, I'm doing that with the guitar, because I know when I watch that guy, there's some solos that I know that I can play better than him. But then there's some solos that I can't hold a candle to that. And so, but there's enough there that gives me the inspiration if I decided, if I chose to get after it. Now, there's no money in gigging on the weekend at pubs, right? So for me, it's really, I've got to get first things first. I've got to get things sorted in an order which is going to allow me then the freedom, and it's not going to come back and bite me in the ass. So once I am satisfied with the level of my business, I can then maybe turn some of that attention to playing guitar all day, because I know that if I did, I would develop more skills, period. And it's just through doing, right, and learning and having that hunger to invest the time. And I haven't got that right now. I spend all my time in the business world because I really do love what I'm building. And so, for you, I think as somebody that's in that position that's starting out, it's just so, the optimism is through the roof. The excitement is unbelievable. It's a drug. And then you really get into that position, where your fearlessness in the beginning is really like that hill climber mentality where you go, this is great. Early stages of business ownership, you're driven, by the grit that you've got and the ambition that you've got. and the hunger to succeed. And it's and I understand why people go back around and start over. It highlights the freedom and the energy of having little to lose and everything to gain, because you're looking up at the top of the mountain going, mate, there's nothing behind me. It's all in front of me. And that's exciting. I don't think anybody starts a business and says I'm intimidated by that. But I do think that would be healthy if you had that bit of a concern as well. I've obviously recognised that the early stages of this, it lays the groundwork for your future success. Now, if you don't lay the foundation, as builders in the house, guys and gals, we know without laying a good foundation, the house will not stand up. It will fall over eventually. So think about your business in the same light. Say, I am building, maybe you're a young builder, and I know that shit can't happen fast enough. I get it. You're right. You impatient little sod. Okay, so what you've got to understand is there's a bit of call to maturity, because we know we can't expedite. Okay, there's only so much that we can do. The rest of it's organic and it's going to happen over time. Okay, but you've got to understand that it lays that groundwork. The techniques that you need as a $3 million revenue business, you will learn a lot of those between $500,000 and $1 million. And then it just goes to scale. Okay, now where you'll know that you haven't done it when you hit 1.6 million is, or 1.8 or whatever it is, you'll realize that the business is just a shit show. And then you'll scale back down to 500,000, and guess what you're going to do? You're going to learn the lessons. You're going to understand systemization. You're going to learn financial accountability. You're going to learn financial control. You're going to learn pricing models. You're going to learn marketing. You're going to learn about human resource recruitment and management. Like, guys and girls, I kid you not, I know you think this should be just click your heels, wiggle your nose, and it's all, blue skies and lollipops and you're making money. But, mate, I'm telling you, it's not that easy. It's just not. And I think I've mentioned this a few episodes ago. It's like, people go, well, I don't like the stress of running a building company. I'm like, mate, it's all stress. When you're expanding, there's stress. When you're stagnating and flatlining, there's stress. And when you're going backwards, there's stress. So, let's just give that, put that to bed, forget about that now, and start to embrace the love of the game. And so you've got to love the pain in the game. Otherwise, you just won't make it to the summit. Okay, so that's point number one. Obviously, the fearlessness in the beginning, it helps you really lay that foundation. The second point is where we start to get some altitude, and we start to get up the mountain, and then we get a fear of heights, okay? Because we just think, my business is growing. Why is it hurting so much? And it's like, higher the levels, bigger the devils, all of that. So, and this is why I think when you are preparing to climb the mountain, I think you've got to be realistic and understand and identify the areas which you're going to struggle in, and so, I think there's a lot of soul searching, and, it's funny because the biggest bang for my buck as a business coach is the power of asking questions. You know what? And it also helped me in the retail world, and it also helps me when I'm talking to prospective franchise. I'm like, tell me what you want, because I'm going to be honest with you. If I don't think that this vehicle can help you get what you want, then I will tell you, because I'm not going to waste your money and time or my money and time, okay? And so that is really about forecasting, but that takes some maturity as well, and normally you won't get that until you've made a few mistakes and you failed forward. That's the game, okay? So address how reaching high levels of success often leads to fear, both of failure and of losing what's been built, and, of course, of the unknown. I mean, I think I live in a world where I'm pioneering. There is no guarantees. Like, there is just technology changes. I think society changes. Trends change, which impacts the way we do things and things like that. And so, I think that, to maintain comfortability, I think that is really just flatlining and going backwards. Okay. We've got to think about pivoting or perishing. That's kind of where we're at. You either pivot or you perish. You either adapt or you die. Okay, just go and ask Blockbuster videos. I know when I first got married, where we were living, there was a Blockbuster 2 minutes around the corner. We'd go up there, walk around the aisles, pick a couple of movies, me and the missus, and, go home and have a good time. That just doesn't happen anymore. But Blockbuster just thought, well, this is always the way it's going to be, and who's this little Netflix? They're not going to give us any trouble. She'll be right, mate. And I'm telling you, that's the biggest regret I bet you those bunch of board of directors have, is that they got absolutely blindsided by a little player. And this is why, there's hope. There's just hope for the little guy. But really, the reason the little guy succeeds is because the little guy refuses to take no for an answer and spends a lot of time educating him or herself. It doesn't just materialize by accident, guys and gals. You've just got to understand that there is a process of development both in you internally, okay, and the business externally, right? So you need to make sure and maintain the focus on the ultimate goal and not be distracted and not be impatient, and just be consistent, persistent. If nothing else, I kid you not, that is where I will win the game. I am not the smartest guy on the field. I am not the smartest guy in the room. But I swear to God, my work ethic is what is going to serve me in perpetuity. Because I'm telling you, you just can't kill me. It just doesn't happen. It's like the guy he's not a friggin' rock star. He's not a gold medalist, but I swear to God, he just won't go away. And that's what it takes. It just takes that, I am completely unreasonable when it comes to doing the work. And despite the surroundings, and one day I'll tell a story of what's going on in the years 2023, 24, and maybe summer 25. And it just makes for a really good movie. And so, it all just, I want you to be real with yourself, because if you get to a certain height in your business and then you all of a sudden start to get fear of heights, you got to ask yourself the question, are you the person that's going to run this business at that level? Or you need to find your level, okay? Just go to base camp 1, okay? Turn around, go back, or whatever. Just stay at base camp. But if you think you're an 8,500, meter altitude type climber, okay, headgear or helmets on and mouth guard in, because it's going to get rough. Right. Embracing the pioneer spirit is just what I'm talking about. This is the next phase of play. So we go from fearlessness, so we don't have any fear in us really in the beginning. We're all optimism. And then we get a fear of heights. That's the second thing, because all of a sudden the reality sets in, and we're like Alex Hormozy talks about, we all of a sudden became educated or informed pessimists. It's like, oh, wow, this is not as easy as I thought. Okay, and then we have that decision to make. Are we going back down the mountain and we're quitting, or are we stagnating, or are we going to continue to grow the business? Because in growing the business, you grow yourself. That's what I've experienced, okay? The more challenging it got, the more education I got. And I've made reference to the old donkey that fell down the well, and the village owners thought, oh, well, he's gone. It's done. We might as well bury the poor bastard. So as they threw dirt on his back, in thinking that they were just going to bury him down there, he just kept shrugging it off and stepping on that which they were throwing on his back and used it to increase his altitude. That's the mindset, to the point where they filled the well up and all of a sudden his beady ears, and his beady eyes popped up, and there he was. And he really got himself back into a zone where he could live again. And I just think that kind of attitude, that unrelenting, not negotiable, unreasonable attitude towards confronting that which is challenging you right now, is going to be your competitive advantage. It is my competitive advantage. You can't kill me. You can't stop me. It's just because the love of the game is there. I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. I mean, you can't do what I've done for as long as I've done it because I'm trying to impress anybody. There's nobody out there that gives a shit about what I've done, really. Not business partners, not the wife, really not the kids. Like, who am I doing it for? I'm doing it for me because it's what I love to do. And I believe in the long term, I'm going to make a difference. And then it becomes legacy over currency. And that's kind of where I'm at. And that is why pioneers do what they do. So no matter how much success that you get in your life, and I wish you all the success, never lose that pioneer spirit. Because I'm telling you, when we have to adapt or die, we've got to pivot or perish. Our ability to fall back on our pioneer roots is what takes us to the next level and the next level and the next level. And that's a winner's mindset, because if you go getting fat and happy, it really, I just don't think there's a level of satisfaction. You've got to continue to do something. You've got to be pushing on. You've got to be, if it was all about being satisfied, we wouldn't have cell phones. We got landlines. What do you need a lap for? Like we continue to reinvent ourselves as the human race. And I think in business, we just don't understand. We don't have context. We don't see the similarities between what happens in the greater community and what can happen in us as business owners. And I encourage you just to embrace the pioneer spirit. Really, what that does is it helps you thrive in and amongst the unknown. And that's really what it comes down to. If business can just be like a storm full time, it's 24/7. Okay. And so I think being comfortable in the storm is where we want to be. I really want you to adopt that. Les Brown, who's a motivational speaker, and I love listening to Les, he talks about leap and the net will appear. Now, people who aren't meant to be in business will say to me, Max, I want to see the net before I jump. And that's an immediate tell. It's an immediate red flag. Like, you should get out of business. You should go and work, maybe be a second in command to somebody or just work for somebody else. Because we've got to have an appetite, not like Guns N' Roses where you've got an appetite for destruction, but an appetite for risk. You've got to have a high appetite for risk to make it work. Okay, so you've got to adopt that. I'm going to leap before I can see the net. That's the mindset you've got to have, and really trust in your abilities and take bold steps. I mean, it's just par for the course. You know what? And it's what heroes do. And they're very humble, and they don't want the accolades, but they get it done, and it automatically comes back around to them eventually. Okay. I think those types of people can be misinterpreted. Oh, they're workaholics. Oh, they focus on their work and they forget about their family. I might have people that say that about me. I mean, none of them are going to say it to my face. But nonetheless, I know what my relationship is with my wife and my kids. And that's all that matters. I don't give a shit what people think. It's irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant. Oh, geez. Okay. Right. You really want to commit fully to the journey with no option to retreat. And, when I come to Canada, it was all about burn the boats. It was like, I'm going to make this work, whether, hell or high water, whether it kills me. And it has been a challenge. There's no question when you come to a new country and you've got to figure out, what's going on. And I dropped straight into a brand new business that, even though it was in construction, franchising wasn't something that I'd been taught. I didn't go to university. I didn't get an MBA. There was a lot of figuring out on the fly based on some minor input from business partners. It wasn't as significant as what I thought it was going to be. And I did have to really make it up on the fly. But my attitude was no retreat, no surrender. We will conquer, as we should. Like, that is the game, and just continue on to just build the legacy. We want to celebrate the thrill of being a pioneer as well. And I think that's what I'm doing with you guys today and you gals today. I'm just talking about how I feel about being a pioneer. It is something that I couldn't get in a cushy job and just go to work and come home. Like, the entrepreneurial ambition that's in me is unquenchable. Like, everything I get involved in, whether it's a rock and roll band, whether it's a go-kart club, you name it, if I'm in it, we've got to be always looking to what's next. What else can we improve? How can we do this better? Blah, blah, blah. I'm just trying to push the boundaries, push the envelope, and I'm telling you, it makes people supremely uncomfortable. But what it does, it helps me find good team members going forward, better than I have ever done before. Because of the level of growth that I've experienced over the last 5 years, let's say, I am looking for somebody that has a very obvious similarity to that, okay? And so, we've got to be mindful that by us disciplining ourselves, by operating in a certain way, what that does is that we really want to find people that are going to embrace that type of operation. Because there's people there's not people right now because you're in the room, or maybe you will be. Some people hear my podcast and go, I'm not dealing with that knucklehead. He's just a loudmouth or whatever. But, and I never get to talk to them, which is okay. Maybe they'll come back around next year. Who knows? But at the end of the day, I don't spend my time with time wasters if that's where they're at the moment. Now, I'm not saying that you can't get better. You can. I'm not saying that I can't grow on you and all of a sudden you go, well, he's not that much of a loudmouth. He's an okay dude, right? I'm just saying that I'm wanting to deal with the right type of person right now. I want to build that right team. And I want to really empower them to be the best they can be if they are on board with my vision and what I want to do with the business. And that's, I think we talked about that in the last episode. So, that's really important to me. Celebrating that thrill of being the pioneer, exploring the uncharted territory, evolving as both a business owner, but also as a leader, I think that's really where it really does give you a great sense of satisfaction, and the people close to you are going to be proud of you. And so it's a pretty exciting thing. So moving from fearless to fearful, okay, obviously that's what can happen. So if you feel that way, don't beat yourself up. You got to embrace the unknown. That's essential for continued growth. You've just got to resign to the fact that what I know is that there's a lot of shit that I don't know. And there's a lot of things I'm going to experience that I never anticipated. That is the game, okay? Face those fears, really embrace the fact that, that state of being outside your comfort zone is always going to leave you with a certain level of uncertainty and anxiety, okay? But action overcomes anxiety. And then, I really think that people have been successful. I've just watched again a movie called The Darkest Hour, which talks about Winston Churchill and, how he was in charge of, the pushback on the Nazis. And, it was really interesting to watch that movie and the evolution of how, a leader not only just relies on his own capabilities, but he does have to embrace the fact that there is a lot of unknowns. And, there's some things that did help him get it through. I mean, there were so many moving parts inside that, that sector of history. It's a really interesting watch if you've got it on your, is it Netflix or Prime? But, he just seemed like such an incompetent leader. It was hilarious. He wasn't the chief of staff or whatever you want to call it that you would think. He was really just an eccentric personality. But, it's not about avoiding the fear. It's about learning, to soar above it. So, guys and gals, let me finish. Be encouraged. Business is not for the faint-hearted, but if it is something that you love to do, you will not regret doing it. That's what I would say. Like and subscribe. One of these drops every week. Hit the bell. If you've got any questions, drop them below. If you want to chat with me on email, max@elitebusinessadvisory.com. If you want to check out the website and chat to me about business coaching, you can jump on elitebusinessadvisory.com, hit the book a consultation button. If there's no room in my calendar, feel free to shoot me an email and go, hey, Max, I'm in South Australia, or I'm in, Auckland, or wherever you are. How about, can we catch up at this time, and I can sort of move some things around, hopefully to accommodate your preference. Other than that, go build a kick-ass business, and I will see you again on the next episode. Cheers.